Ball State Sports Link Driven is proudly presented by Stoops Automotive. Online at stoopsauto.com.
Until I could start walking again. I went from a wheelchair to crutches. Wearing a seatbelt for one, but also I just appreciate that, it could end real fast and how lucky I am to still be here.
It's Ball State Sports Links Driven, presented by Stoops Automotive. I'm your host, Connor Runyon. In this episode, we'll take a look at the best stories in Ball State sports. Our first story takes us out to the tennis court with senior Courtney Wild. Her passion for tennis was innate growing up in a tennis family, but the only thing that rivals her passion for tennis is her passion for helping children, and that will ultimately lead her to the next stage in her life.
Around 10 years old, my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He was very forgetful, and I remember one time at the kitchen table, he was working on a farm animal puzzle, and he could hardly do it. My mom played tennis for Purdue. She decided that tennis was going to be a part of her life and a part of all of our lives. My dad works for Babolat, which is another tennis equipment company. Both my sisters play tennis. Tennis is our life. We started at a really young age, so it was kind of ingrained in us, and that's all we knew. I'm trying to break the mold because I really have a passion for helping kids. My cousin, he was diagnosed with autism at 3 years old and didn't say a word till he was 3. And it's just, sorry, he's really special to me. He worked with a speech pathologist. She would come to the house, and I would kind of sit on the side and look and watch, and I was just amazed. I knew right then that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with kids like Jacob, and you could just see his face light up when he could say something and communicate with somebody, and that's really special to me. He knew over 100 sign language signs, and so we knew he was intelligent, so we were hoping and waiting that he would say his first word, and when he did at 3 years, it was awesome just to see that. In speech, we work with children and Alzheimer's patients who have trouble with their cognitive abilities, and that was just another, looking back on it, I was like, that's just another thing that clicked with me about speech pathology and just another connection I had with it. I've been afforded a lot of opportunities in life, and I see that he doesn't have a lot, so my main goal in life is to have those same opportunities for him and other children like him.
Growing up on the baseball fields in Selma, Indiana, Devin Wilburn was not the best little leaguer, according to his dad, but he continued to develop throughout high school and accomplished his dream of being a Division I baseball player. After 2 years on the Ball State baseball team, he had his dream snatched away from him. After dealing with some adversity, Devin crawled his way all the way back and has become a prominent pitcher for the Ball State baseball team in 2015.
It was over when you didn't want it to be over.
When he has his bad days, they're pretty bad.
It was heartbreaking. It was crushing, really, to me.
Emotionally, it was tough. It was tough on me and my family. I felt like I had worked my whole life to get to this point. I was living the dream, playing Division I baseball, and then all of a sudden I wasn't healthy. I wasn't able to perform the way that I wanted to. Wasn't having the results I wanted to, and ultimately it led to me, not having fun.
I think I wanted it sometimes more than he did, and I took it hard just because one day you're watching your son play, and then one day it's over.
My sophomore year, we were about 3 weeks out of season. We had morning weights one day. I woke up with some pretty severe abdominal pain. I wasn't really sure what was going on. Ended up leaving weights, trying to go down to the trainer's room. I was crawling by the time I was about to get down there. I ended up going to the emergency room, and the pain was constantly coming back. It was pretty scary.
I was worried because I've had the same issues, and I've had some surgeries on my stomach and stuff because of that.
I go long periods of time without using the bathroom. So basically, when it starts to work its way through, it pushes against the colon, causes the colon to kind of expand out, push up against other organs. So that's where the discomfort comes from. I felt that what was best for me at the time, after the season ended, was to just hang it up and try to get myself healthy.
You never want to see anyone be forced to quit their sport due to, like an illness, injury, and that's what he had to do. Especially, as a team, we had a couple rough years, but he always was a bright spot for our team.
He was down. He was trying to battle through it, and especially, when you're young, you want to play and you don't want to tell coach, "Hey, I'm hurting." But there was many times, he would just. He would lay over in the shed. I'd see him laying in the shed, and he's hurting when he's laying in the shed.
It was tough. It was tough. I dreamed of playing baseball from the time I was a kid. I wanted to get drafted, go play in the league, and then once I got to where I was so unhealthy and basically had to decide to hang it up, it was tough.
This is a guy that I played with all my life, and he's always been there. So then, I know eventually, he's a year older than me, so eventually he would graduate, but we weren't ready for that yet.
I just tried to be positive and just tell him, it's going to be better, you'll be better. And once we got past not thinking he's going to play baseball anymore, then it was just, get through school and, get your degree and just go from there.
It was really hard on my mom. My mom went through a lot. She's the strongest woman I know. I'm still obsessed about baseball. As soon as I hung it up, the first thing I did was call my high school coach. Tell him what was going on, because I'm really close with all those guys out of my high school, and I started volunteering out there. I was our volunteer assistant for our high school team, and then I head coached our middle school team at the same time. So I still stayed around the game as much as I could.
I think that made him realize how much he loved the game, and he missed playing it. I was glad to see him stay connected to it. I always kind of planted the seed. I was like, you think you might ever play again? And he'd always just blow me off. Nah. So I kind of learned just to kind of leave it alone.
My best friend, he plays baseball at Indiana Wesleyan. He played on the summer team down in Cincinnati. He came home for the summer, had about 2 months before he had to go back to school to play. And you know, I was coaching at the time, so he came out and I helped him out a lot. We would throw and we would run stuff together and lift every day. And this is really the first physical activity I've done in 2 years. So then I started realizing after a couple weeks, you know, I was feeling all right. My arm felt really good. I mean, obviously I hadn't thrown in so long. And he kind of put the idea in my head of, you know, you need to give this a try.
He calls me and he's like, hey, what do you think about going to a ball game in the spring? And I thought he was talking like the Reds or the Cubs or something.
He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, well, I just went to walk-on tryouts. I'm back on the team now, so I got practice tomorrow, you know.
I just got real emotional. I couldn't even talk. Tears were flowing down my face, you know, and just, you try not to be a big baby sometimes in life, but sometimes tears are good. I just cried like a baby.
I was a sophomore until now, just, you know, not working out consistently, so I had to learn how to pitch completely different than what I did before, because I threw so much harder before than I do now.
How he's different is now he can throw the ball at a lot of different angles, whereas before he was over-the-top pitcher.
I might be a guy who could come in and be a one-batter a game kind of guy if I needed to be. And so at the tryout, he asked if I could throw from down here, and I was like, you know, I can try and we'll see.
Away from you, be a little bit offset, get a little bit of hip action, and then go.
I was watching that on the computer, you know, and that's just like fist pumping the whole time. That was fun. I would say that's probably been his best, as far as success moment, as far as getting people out.
And I felt like the baseball guys were looking down on me that day because it was just one of those things I couldn't explain. Just whatever pitch I threw, they swung and missed.
His job is to come in and face the best left-handed hitters when the game's on the line. And for most of the season, Devin's done a really nice job.
I know he's trying to really enjoy this year because, I mean, here's a guy who got something taken away from him, and now he gets to play again, so he's definitely not taking it for granted.
I think people can just see that I'm somebody who enjoys the game of baseball and loves being around the game, and you know, I don't take it for granted.
Couldn't be more proud.
I was glad to join the Brotherhood late. You know, I've made some friends I know I'm going to have for the rest of my life. And, you know, it's really cool to be a part of something like this.
Ball State senior golfer McCormick Klauser was a late add to the Ball State roster as he transferred from Michigan State, but he was quite the find for head coach Mike Fleck. The question is, who is McCormick Klauser? Tori Fox and Matt Craig dig deeper.
When I was about 2 years old, I think, my parents bought me a baseball bat set with a tee type thing, and I guess I just started hitting around like a golf ball instead of like an actual baseball. I started playing in tournaments when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was pretty good as a junior golfer and kind of just kept me motivated to keep playing and playing. And growing up, I always played at this course back in Bluffton called Timber Ridge. We didn't have a driving range in Bluffton growing up, so I would just go out and play golf and just work on my game on the course. In the end, I think it actually helped me. It helped me learn how to score and learn how to just play the game the way I play it. Some people get in the mindset of going to hit range balls all the time and they just think about golf swing. But I think it really helped me growing up not having to hit range balls. I mean, it might have been a helpful resource to have. We were just driving home from a golf tournament. I think I was maybe 6th grade, and a lady pulled out in front of us, and my dad tried to swerve, and she just hit my door, and our car flipped end over end like 3 times. I was texting at the time, so I didn't see it coming, which they said really helped me to like avoid tensing up. I was pretty lucky that my bones didn't get pushed into my brain. Instead, they just kind of like fractured and separated. I got a big scar on my forehead from it. I fractured all the bones in my forehead and broke the ribs on my right side. The doctors kept reassuring me that it wasn't a life-threatening thing. It was just going to heal up over time. It just kind of made me appreciate wearing a seatbelt for one, but also just appreciate that, I mean, it could end real fast and how lucky I am to still be here. I'm from a small town, so I like going back there and kind of knowing a lot of people and going off the golf course and just seeing everyone you know, playing golf with my good friends, and it's kind of just, I like that small town feel. I kind of committed pretty early, so that's one thing I kind of wish I wouldn't have. I kind of let the big name schools get in my head. I definitely enjoyed my time there. I got to meet a lot of good people, got to experience a lot of cool things. Ball State, I kind of overlooked them in the beginning just because it's a smaller school, but really the golf program here is as good as any, so that's kind of what drew me back here, was just getting back closer to home a little bit and just a place where I knew I'd be comfortable.
McCormick Clouser is Ball State golf. You know, he kind of went and experienced something different and kind of found out that it wasn't for him, and you know, he got here. And our program is really kind of built on the premise that we like to get these guys that have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. He's definitely of the Ball State golf mode, you know, in terms of his grit, determination, ability to kind of let go of all the external factors and just kind of do his job to the best of his ability. He goes out and works hard, puts the time and effort into it and gets the results out of it. You know, hopefully that kind of trickles down through the team and they see it, and then, you know, that's the way that he kind of goes about trying to send his message throughout the program.
My ultimate goal is to play on the PGA Tour and to make a living at it and have a good career out there. After college, I'm going to turn pro and kind of start working my way there. Never really thought I'd be good enough to play pro, but now that's kind of this year I've had a little bit of success, and it's really motivated me to try and get better and just try and make a living out of it.
He knows it's not going to be easy. You know, he knows it's going to be very competitive, but I think he has a lot of the ingredients that'll, you know, potentially allow him to be successful at the next level if he sticks to it and stays the course.
Golf is kind of just a game I play, so I'd like to think people will recognize me for a better person than I am golfer. So I don't know, I'm just real blessed to be here, and I think my faith in God is probably one of the biggest things I lean on.
Athletic teams tend to take on the personality of their head coach, but for sophomore tennis player Andrew Stutz, his relationship with Bill Richards, the men's tennis coach, goes a little bit deeper. Andrew's road, once broken, was resurrected here at Ball State.
I've said shock. It was just immediate pain. A lot of people say, like, when freak accidents like that happen, your body goes into shock and you don't feel it, but I felt everything in that moment. More or less forced my dad to go buy me just a little dingy racket, and I started hitting a ball against our garage. That's how it started.
He and my husband played a lot at Broad Ripple Park. There are courts over not too far from our house, and they played a lot of tennis over there.
I remember being about 17 and 18 and looking back and seeing those kids that I used to look up to were kids that I could beat, and now I was one of the people that kids looked up to when they thought of the good tennis players in the state.
Prior to the injury, felt like he was going to have his choice of a few Division I schools to choose from, and he thought, you know, it's all going down the tubes now. Nobody's going to want to talk to me about tennis anymore. I'll be lucky if I go anywhere.
I just remember the sight.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
We had to sign a waiver for him to go, and my husband said at that point, I have a bad feeling about this.
I remember seeing a ball, and for some reason I had this vision in my mind that I was going to jump up. Made a very poor decision to jump really high, and I didn't see where I was landing.
At around 5 o'clock, we got a phone call from Chris Quammen, his best friend who played tennis for Carmel, and he said, Mrs. Stutz, Andrew's been hurt.
Started bouncing, and for some reason my right leg wasn't touching the ground, and I look over, and I remember falling to the ground in just complete shock and pain. Once I laid on the ground and I looked over again to just make sure, am I actually seeing my bones right now, which I was, and then that's when it really hit me, like, your high school career is over. Since there weren't any surgeons on call, they laid me on this wooden board in the hospital for what felt like days, but I'm sure it was only about an hour or so.
So he told us he was going to put in 2 metal plates and 16 screws to put those bones back together. Wheeling him out on the court in a wheelchair at the state championships was really, really difficult.
I waited 4.5 months till I could start walking again. I went from a wheelchair to crutches, and then 4 days a week I'd go to physical therapy for 2 hours. The only news I got about tennis was from coaches that weren't exactly thrilled to hear the news and kind of made it seem like I might not have a chance to play anymore.
Bill Richards is our hero because he wanted Andrew before the injury and he wanted him after.
I remember him telling my dad just that we could get through it and that he believed in me. He's basically the only reason I'm playing at a high college level. I wouldn't say I'm 100%, but I feel like each match my leg's getting better and I'm getting back to how I used to fight and believe on the court.
Coming through a horrific injury and being determined to make it through that makes me very proud.
That concludes this episode of Driven. Our executive producer today was J.C. Obringer, as he has been throughout the course of the year. Our faculty advisors, Chris Taylor, Alex Cartman, and Brad Daly. I'm your host, Connor Onion, saying thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you in the fall for Ball State Sports Links Driven.